那就谢谢大家今天晚上来听我们的今天这个讲座。那我们今天很高兴能请到一个就是说Miss Lori Dow， 她就是在 Milton 的一个招生官，然后她主要负责的范围是国际生的这个招生。然后呢，另外一位是 Kevin， 他是 Milton 的旧生，然后呢，他也是有些学生可能跟他接触过吧，他也是我们的一个老师吧。所以就今天的话，很高兴请到他们2位来做这个分享。然后现在的话呢 ，Lori 老师的话呢，希望先放2个视频。一个呢是关于 Milton 的这个，因为很多人也有问过我，就比如说 Milton 为什么是50%技术59%读，所以第一个视频的话呢是可能分享一下吧，就知道他们这个安排的一些特点吧。然後第二個的話呢，當然就是一個針對 Milton 的這個介紹，所以我們首先會看這2個影片，然後我們會正式開始今天的這個講座。All right, yeah, so Lori, feel free to go ahead and show the video.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
I think being out of school with 50% day and boarders it's a good mix of having both. So like sometimes when it's a snow day and then we're all snowed in, like I have my friends in the dorm who I can hang out with. We can like order food and like watch movies and stuff. And also if I just want to get out on campus or like there's this thing called Anime Boston, and having day student friends allowed me to go there so that I can go to the conventions and like have fun with them, which is something I couldn't do if I didn't have so many day students. So the nice balance allows me to have the best of both worlds.
There are always weekend activities or things happening in the evenings, or if I'm staying late for something after school, I know I can go with my boarder friends to get dinner, and so it just creates a community that doesn't just last from 8 until 3:30. It really kind of keeps going, and day students can access that and tap into that.
I know every Friday night I'm almost always here, like doing whatever activity there is, and I think that the boarding students really make that happen.
It's really awesome to have day students, especially being a boarder, because it's nice to get off campus, and having people whose houses you can go to or who can drive you once you get a little bit older is a lot of fun and a nice change of pace.
It's cool because boarders can be on campus, but also it's easy to kind of get off campus and have day student friends. So I'll have my boarder friends over to sleep over or to go out to dinner.
You literally have people from the other side of the world, and I think that just makes every school day that much more like rich and exciting, knowing that you have people who have such different backgrounds all coming together.
Like easier to learn if you have a lot of people that like come from a lot of different places. So I think it's a really good way for like different perspectives to kind of mesh together.
I have not found a single teacher that doesn't put the needs of their student first. Their only agenda is for me to learn the material and love learning the material.
To be surrounded by really smart, amazing, passionate people who, although they all kind of share that quality, are interested in so many different avenues.
The best part of Milton to me are the relationships that I've formed with my teachers, with my friends, and whether it be through sports or academics or clubs, I feel like everyone here is really invested in what they do, and it's contagious.
The best part about going to Milton for me is that we just have such a range of activities to do. Last year I took computer science for the very first time in my life, and I didn't think I'd be interested in it, but now I'm taking it again and I'm taking a full course of it, and it's something that I now want to do for the rest of my life.
I'd say the best part about going to Milton is how passionate both the teachers and the students are. Everyone around me is always really passionate about learning, which makes it really easy for everyone to improve in the classroom.
Making friends. I feel like the Milton Academy really makes it easy to make friends and find your own friend group.
The best part about going to Milton is probably the diverse student body. It just brings so many more new perspectives to the table.
I've gotten to meet so many people from all over the world, really, that I wouldn't have gotten to meet if I didn't come here.
Okay. All All righty. So what we'll do is now I'll jump right into the PowerPoint, if that's okay. Does that work?
Yep. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, before I do that, good evening, everyone. My name is, as introduced, is Lori Dow, and I have been at Milton for a very long time. I'm in my 17th year. Wow, that's unbelievable. But I've been working in this office and have had the privilege of traveling all over the globe to meet wonderful students like yourselves. So this is a very different format because normally I am in Beijing or Shanghai in the fall and we'll meet you at a reception. But it's nice for you to take a look at us, see what we're all about. And of course, please feel free to utilize the chat. If you have particular questions and if there's anything that needs to be translated, then we'll do that as well. So here we go. Kevin, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yep. So my name is Kevin. I'm actually a graduate of Milton. I graduated in 2013. So that's been a while, but you know, I've also work with Foundation kind of as a, you know, I did ICWC time, but I still have a, and you know, I'm here to just kind of give you more details from a student perspective of what being a student at Milton is like. And yeah, normally during the presentations in Beijing and Shanghai, I've also participated in helping the presentation. So I'm just here to help answer any questions that you know, family or students may have about the experience. So
awesome.
Glad to be here.
All right, good. So I guess, you know, for today, you know, because I think there's a PowerPoint. I think for Lori, you know, feel free, you know, to I guess introduce or speak as much as you want to, you know, and we'll kind of like do the kind of translation like slide by slide. So if you can like a good portion of what you want to share, and then sending it out, we'll do the live translation to your group. So it won't be, so you will not, so at least I think it's a bit more smoother than just like one sentence and one English, one sentence Chinese. You know, so that will be the way to do it. And Kevin, I'm not sure how your Mandarin is right now, but if there's anything you want to speak directly in Mandarin, you know, please do so. So Sandy will not need to translate for you.
Alrighty, so obviously this is just the front part of the slide. I'm not going to show that video because I already showed the other one. But I think it's important, as the two videos stated earlier, talking about the 50-50 and the best part about being at Milton. And I think, you know, it really encompasses the school's culture. Our motto is dare to be true, and a lot of the students talk about that, particularly when I'm interviewing students, and ultimately when they select Milton, you know, to be a part of that passion for learning. And I think as you are looking at the different schools, as you start to do, you know, more as you start to investigate schools and really learn about the schools, you're going to find that all of us have this overarching piece where it's passion for learning. And then embracing diversity. I mean, that's important. And to be able to say that, as the students referenced in the video, that it's not just, it's a diversity in all aspects, whether it's ethnic diversity, diversity in the classroom, diversity of classes, diversity of, you know, so just a variety of areas, and a good balance overall. And I think, you know, again, you could read down the slide with a strong sense of inclusive community, and really truly an environment where it's safe to take risks and explore interests. So you're going to find that you don't have to be hesitant or tentative. If you want to try out for a particular area athletically and you've never done it before, if you want to dive into a course that you're not sure how you're going to do, if you want to jump into a particular organization or program that you want to jump into, you're able to do that, and we actually encourage and support that.
Milton 的这个学校的文化呢，就是像他们的理念一样，就是勇敢的做自己，然后去尝试一些不同的东西。然后呢，他们是非常的重视这个对于学习，对于就是学习的这种热爱。然后学校也是非常的多元的，然后多元可能会展现在不同的方面，包括是不同的国籍、不同的学生、不同的背景，然后有不同的一些课程，然后大家也是会有一个平衡，可能是学术跟课外活动各方面的一些平衡。然后学校是非常的多元化跟包容，然后学校也是非常的就是鼓励学生去尝试不同的东西，包括例如说尝试一种新的运动啊，尝试一个新的课程啊，之前没学过的东西啊，参加一个新的学会啊，就是去探索一种新的兴趣。反正就是说学校是非常的强调，就是说学生可以尝试一些新的东西，有一个非常就是开放的一个理念。
Here you see that Milton at a glance, and this gives you an overview of just who we are as a school. You know, right now, the acreage is actually higher than what was initially reported. When we look at the overall acreage, we're probably closer to about 150 to 160 acres now. So, which was interesting. So somehow we seem to have did not include certain areas. So I think we're looking overall, but 730 students strong, and I think that part is very much who we are. We're formed and founded in 1798, and started off. You know, Milton has gone through. You know, we've been coeducational. But years ago in the early 1900s, we had a girls' side of the campus and the boys' side of the campus, and then later on, years later, we merged and we have ultimately are co-ed 50-50. And as you heard in our video, 50% is day and 50% is boarding. And what's really attractive to many students is the fact that we are 8 miles south of the city. So I think as Kendall referenced in the video, you know, that students can, you know, do things in the city, in Boston, you know, comes here and so forth. And then 12% of our students, and actually this slide we're updating, we're about 14% international students, with 45% of our students are non-white, and we are 50-50 male and female, with 29 countries and 29 states. So it's states and territories. So that gives you a sense, and again, from the videos, the students really reference the richness of the diverse from students coming from all over the globe. And that actually adds to who we are. And Kevin, chime in if there's anything you want to add.
Yeah, sure, but yeah, but I will say the 8 miles away from Boston is also one of my favorite parts about being at Milton. You know, you just have access to so many more resources, and also just a lot more, especially during the weekend, right? You know, oftentimes I would go into Chinatown with my dorm mates or go into Cambridge, right? You know, the Harvard area, you know, there's a lot of fun activities to do there. I think it just adds a different facet to my experience at Milton.
Okay, Sandy, you're good.
那就是Milton 呢有730个学生，在9年级到12年级。那学校是1798年建成的。学校的面积呢，其实就是之前写的这个125，有部分的地方其实没有涵盖进去。学校其实大概是150到160的公顷，然后学校里面有12%的就是14的国际生，这个也是已经更新了一些。然后像刚才大家看到的 video。这个就是片段里面也看到，就是学校是50%是走读生，50%是这个就是寄宿生。这个学校呢也是最大的一个优势呢，就在于跟波士顿是非常的近的。刚才Kevin 老师也 share 到，就是说就是这个进 Boston 这个对于这个平常周末的活动有很大的优势，因为活动可以就是周末的时候去 Boston 去做不同的一些 些东西啊，例如说是去一个小镇，然后就去就是学校的唐人街，就是附近的唐人街等等，这一些都是很多的活动可以做，所以就是这个地理的优势是 Milton 很大的一个方面。然后呢，学校也是有50%是男生，50%是女生。然后学校的学生来自于很多不同的国家，就是29个国家跟29个州份。
Okay. Our academics are what brings you to Milton, and so as you have the opportunity, whoops, didn't mean to do that. Sorry. As you continue to learn about the different schools that you will ultimately apply to for the fall of 2021, know that we have rich offerings of classes in all aspects, whether it's math, modern languages, science, English, history, and social science. And it was nice to hear at the beginning from the students as they referenced some of the classes that they may have not taken ever before, or have, computer science may be an area that they love and they can continue to dive right in and do things. And what's nice about it is the balance. So you have the academic part, and that's important. You have over in the classes, and as you can see in the middle slide or the middle picture, which is the science area, you'll see the Harkness method, and that is many times is how we are teaching. So you're going to have 14 students in a class. You're going to have and the teachers are not lecturing. The teachers, and I think you saw that in the video, that they're sitting at the table with you, and it's not lecture, test. It's engaging and really getting the best out of you that they possibly can. And it's important to note that as you are, taking the classes, your offerings in your freshman year may be limited. And what I mean by that is, there are classes that you will have the opportunity to take. So, English is a requirement, math is a requirement, but if you're coming with a higher level math, we do placements for that. But then in addition to that is that, they say that what you may not have offering in your freshman year, because that's really your foundation, you can do outside of the classroom, which I'll dive into in a little bit. So I'll stop there and Sandy let you translate.
好的，那学校Milton 的学术课程是非常的丰富的。那有就是学生一般是要在5个领域里面去修读课程，包括是这个数学，然后现代语言、科学、英语，还有就是历史跟人文。然后呢，学校的这个教学模式呢，就像大家在中间的这个科学的那个图里面看到，学校是用一个就是 Harkness 的方法，就是这个不是一个讲座式的这种教学的方法，所以学生是跟老师坐在一起，大家是一个讨论的形式。然后呢，是希望每个学生都能够参与课堂的讨论等等，就不是一个就是单向的一个教学方式。就是学生呢可以就是尝试很多之前没有读过的一些课程，这个就是在 Milton 的这个课程范围里面，你都可以去修读。
And oops, did I? Oh goodness. There we go. Goodness. Okay, there we go. So I think for what's important also to add in terms of the classes themselves is the fact that you are taking what you call a class for English or a freshman English. You're going to take, you'll do science and math, history. You'll take a foreign language. You'll also be required to take half semester of performing arts and half semester of visual arts. Some of you may come with that experience and love it and continue to dive in and do more of it, while others are like, okay, one and done, and that's all. But the fact is that you will have a variety, and as you go into your upper years, your sophomore, junior, and senior years, you're going to find that overall that the richness of the classes that you'll be able to take dive into that. We do offer honors and advanced placement classes, but many of our classes are taught with such richness that you're getting that even without having to take AP or honors. So know that, as we mentioned, the class size, that's important because you're not just a number of 50 kids in a class. You are 14 students. Sometimes it's smaller than that. and you actually will have that one-on-one time, and the teachers want you to contribute to the class. Kevin, did you want to add anything, or was that enough?
That's a very, very solid explanation of the classes.
Well, but I'll add something, just what we saw from Kevin as a Milton graduate. Out of we have over here many, I guess, teachers or coaches, but I would say Kevin's English ability was one of the best amongst them. So I think that's a good testament of what Milton can provide in terms of, I guess, in the humanities and writing. I don't know about Kevin's math or anything because I never get on that, but at least English-wise, he's been contributing very, very well.
Yeah, I think English was definitely one of the more challenging courses I had at Milton, and for good reason, right? I think it's more on the part of Milton having a very, very strong English curriculum that has prepared, has prepared me and many other students for a lot of college writing as well. I remember a lot of students, our foundation students have asked me, like, before, does, high school writing, like, how does high school writing prepare you for college? Milton has prepared me very well for college writing, right? Because writing only gets harder and gets more difficult as you go on to college when you write actual formal papers. And a lot of the, I remember we had straight up drills that we had to do during writing workshop, right? That's still a thing in Milton.
That's still a thing.
Yeah, right? It's a very important core part of your Milton experience where you and a lot of other students are all, just trying to figure out all these different grammatical problems. It really improves your writing, your style, your flow, use of language. So that, I will say, is definitely a big part of the Milton curriculum.
Absolutely.
那刚才呢，就是 Lori 老师跟Kevin 老师都讲到，就是这个学术，尤其是在英语方面，其实 Milton 的英语课程是非常的强的，就是学校有很多的这种写作的工作坊。那大家也知道，就是无论是在读任何的一个专业，在大学里面，其实写作还是很重要的。可能科学你也要写一些，就是 lab report 啊这一些，就是所以这个 Milton 里面的学术课程，尤其是写作英语的写作部分是非常有挑战，而且也帮助到学生能够很好的为将来的这个大学生活做准备。那除了刚才讲的这5个主要的学科以外呢，学生还是会需要修读这个就是艺术或者是这个视觉艺术或者是表演艺术。然后呢，到10到12年级呢，学生会有更多的一些空间去读一些荣誉课程或者是 AP 课程。然后学校的这个就是每一班的那个比例呢，大概是14个人一班，所以是一个很小的一个范围，就不像是我们一个就是国内啊，或者是这边的这个大班教学50-60人在一个班房里面，所以呢，学生是有机会有一个1对1的这个关注跟老师的这个交流还是很多的。
So what's also important are the support systems that are put in place, and many of them are formal, but also some of them are informal. And so at the start of it, I just graduated 4 amazing students just this year, very non-traditional way, but they graduated, and as their faculty advisor, I worked with them from freshman year all the way to their senior year. And that many times the faculty advisor is that person that you can bounce things off of, ask questions about classes, what classes you should possibly take, just to provide that type of direction for the student. Also, as I work, because I don't live on campus, I work with day students, and my advisees were day students. But as a faculty advisor in the dorm, that role takes on so much more. And so you're in the dorm, it doesn't just start and stop. And even when I was home over the weekends, my advisees were texting me, But when you're in the dorm living with the students, as Kevin was a student on campus in the dorm, and he was a boarder, you know, he would probably talk about the fact that, you know, your advisor is in the dorm, but also you have all these other faculty that are there. And, you know, many times the advisor, that role doesn't just start and stop, you know, with just, it continues on, shall I say. And so you're going to find that it's not just between student and advisor, but also parents and advisors as well. And I think that that's helpful. Also, some of your advisors could be your teacher. And so they're in the classroom with you. So you leave the classroom and then all of a sudden you go home and they're in the dorm. They're also your dorm parents or house parents. So you're finding that the different layers of support that you have, the adults that want to make sure that you're doing well, and that if you're having a rough day or a bad day, that they're able to support you. Academic tutors, skills center and peer tutors. I mean, I could go on, but I think it's important that you know that there are a lot of people on this campus, and sometimes you don't have to start and stop with your advisor, because sometimes you connect more with maybe another adult in the community, and that's also another support mechanism. So you're not doing this, the overarching piece is you're not doing this alone.
那学校里面呢，还是很全面的一个支持的系统的，有好多的不同的老师在支持。那第一个当然就是这个你的顾问老师，那每个学生都会有一个顾问老师的分配。那这个老师呢就会跟学生就是从一直9年级入学到12年级4年跟着学生，然后在学生的这个学业啊，或者是在选课啊、活动啊等等的这一些都会有一些指导。那除了这位顾问老师以外，就是平常学科的老师，还有就是在宿舍里面的这个监管老师，还有就是这个额外的这个导师等等，就是所有的这些支持都是很多的，就不会说学生遇到困难的时候没有支持。
Also, I like to
add, I was gonna say, do you want to add, like, you were a student leader in the dorms? And
yeah, that's exactly what I was going to talk about,
yeah.
right?
You
know, for students, you know, what's great is that you don't just have adults there to support you, right? It's also a lot of older students, and you'll realize that as you get older, you know, into your junior and senior years, that you will have a lot of leadership opportunities to kind of give back to the community, right? When I was at Milton, throughout my junior and senior years, I was in Norris House. I was a Norris student advisor, where I helped a lot of incoming freshmen adapt to boarding life and also Milton in general. I've also been a part of ISS, which was our independent. It was what does it stand for?
What, independent support? Support
ISS. It was
support services.
Basically, the idea was that there were student counselors, right? Where if a student didn't feel comfortable talking to an adult about a certain situation, they could come to us, right? A select group of seniors, talk about their problems. You know, if you know the problem needed some kind of escalation where we needed to get an adult involved, you know, then we could, you know, do that further, right? But not every student necessarily feels comfortable talking to an adult about a problem. So that's why you have student leaders as well, right? So I think that's also a very key aspect of the support system at Milton, where you have your peers to also look to, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And many times it's, you know, it can be set up in a formal manner. So if you're in the skill center, and it talked about skill center peer tutors, so you need help in writing, or you need help with a problem in math or history, you can go there for more one-on-one training, but tutoring, but you also can connect with the teacher as well. And then sometimes, as Kevin stated, that you feel more comfortable, just you connect differently student to student. So sometimes the way another student would identify or help you to sort of sort out a particular problem, whether it's math or history or what have you, it's easier in that manner as well. So again, lots of support for our students.
那刚才就是 Lori 老师跟 Kevin 老师都讲到，除了老师方面之外呢，平辈就是其他的学生也是一个支持的网络。那Kevin 老师呢，以前在宿舍里面，他11年级跟12年级呢，他也是这个宿舍的这个领导。然后他在这个当然是一个领导的一个机会，同时他们也帮助很多的学生，比如说9年级的这个新生去适应这个寄宿的生活。那有时候呢，就是学生也会觉得，那可能跟大人去讨论一些问题，可能一开始的时候还是觉得不太舒服啊，或者是不太方便。然后那可能同辈就是跟你年长一点的学生呢，能够帮助你去讨论一些东西啊，然后跟你倾诉啊。那如果有需要再去找其他人的帮助的时候，那他们也能够去帮你们去寻求帮助。所以就是这个支持呢，不单是在老师的层面，在同辈的这个层面也会有很多的帮助。
So we talked about life inside of the classroom, and again, there's a lot of that, and there's a nice balance of what you're doing. But then you also are not just coming to our schools just for the academic experience, because you want something a bit more. And so, you know, this is one aspect of it. So this is our you know, arts at Milton Academy. So you have everything from music to performing arts to visual arts. As I mentioned, at your freshman year experience, you're going to take half semester in visual arts, half semester in performing arts. But we do so many different plays and productions. Now, this year, it was limited because we ended school early. But in a regular academic year, we could do up to 10 productions a year. We do some in the larger stage, and then some a little bit smaller. We have student directed plays. We have one-act plays. We do a lot of areas in the performing arts, and it's equally as rich in the visual arts, whether everything from filmmaking to photography, advanced sculpting and design, tech theater and design. So if you have no interest in doing any performance on the main stage, but you love the creativity behind the scenes, you can do that as well. And then some students will also want to continue taking lessons. And so we do offer music lessons in the different instruments. But then there are different groups that you can be a part of. I direct the gospel choir. I formed the gospel choir some 16 years ago, and students can get involved in that. We also have 4 a cappella groups. Actually, now there's 5, and glee club and other aspects. And then a lot of these things, it culminate with performances. So music performances, whether it's the vocal performance or the orchestral performance, there's a lot that you can do. So you will find a niche here in particularly in the music area, and it can continue to develop you know, those opportunities on campus, and then also as well outside of campus for students who want to continue with studying music a bit more focused. You can do the New England Conservatory Saturday program, and some of our students may do that as well. A handful, not a lot, but a handful will do that.
那学校呢，除了刚才讲的学术以外呢，在艺术方面的项目跟课程也是很丰富的，就是包括了音乐，还有就是表演艺术跟视觉艺术。那刚才讲到，就是9年级的学生，半个学年要读这个表演艺术，半个学年读这个视觉艺术。那学校里面就是有很多，就是里面也有很多的可以尝试。当然今年因为疫情呢，就有一些的项目可能要取消了，但是之前也有很多一些就是学校的戏剧啊、话剧啊，还有就是辩论啊等等。然后在这个视觉艺术方面也有就是摄影，然后有电影制作，然后也有这个就是可能是舞台上面的一些制作。有些如果是不希望在前面去表演的话，可以在后面做一些创意的事情，这一些都是很好的机会。那学校也有不同的一些就音乐的课程，如果学生想继续去修读一些1对1的这个音乐课程，因为学校就是距离波士顿也很近嘛，所以也有这样的一些额外的一些机会。
This is in what we call, it's called Kellner Performing Arts Center, and so Kellner is is an area that has a lot going on in it. King Theater is there as well as, and I encourage you to please visit our website to really learn about Milton, you know, on your own time, and as opposed to just me giving you just a brief overview. But this just gives you a sense of, you know, when we talk about the visual arts, like some of the areas where students will do that, they do an art show, or at the end of each, you know, each session or section and so forth, if they're putting together a self-portrait or they're doing a photography areas, you're going to see this gallery. They'll take things away, put new stuff up, and the gallery doesn't just exist in this building, because it as well in, you know, you could see photography and pictures in the dining hall in all over campus. So whether it's alumni things or things that are done by our current students, so you'll see that as well.
那学校这个大家看到的就是学校的这个艺术中心。那这里是会展示很多学生的一些作品。就是 Lori 老师也鼓励大家去学校的网站都看一下。当然就是在这里呢，就是学校有这个展示的一个机会，就像一个画廊，然后会展示学生的一些作品。那除了这个艺术中心以外，其实学校的其他地方，像就是饭堂啊。其他的地方也会有不同的展示，那学生或者是旧生的一些作品，也可以就是在学校的不同地方可以看到。
Kevin, do you want to add anything? Did I miss anything?
I think I will add that it's also great is that I think the way that Milton organizes schedule and curriculum, you know, inherently just adds a lot of space for students to explore different, you know, different arts. And you know, for me, looking at that list, I did about half of what was listed on. I really took my time to try to explore different things. I definitely encourage students to do that, you know, wherever they go, really, right? Because it's about, you know, 4 years where you can really take the time to explore your different interests, right? Like I did a cappella, I did improv, I acted in plays, did some speech and debate, did a lot of drawing, art, you know, just try things, right? You know, you don't have to stick with it if you don't like it, right? But I think you do yourself a favor to at least try different things and see what works for you, right?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I said this at the beginning, the freshman year is about exploration. And if you like something, you stick with it. If you don't, you try something else. So I encourage, as does Kevin, encourage you to really dive in. Don't just look at yourself in a singular mode. Think about what the takeaway is. What is your takeaway? And this is, I would tell my advisees all the time, their freshman year, what is it that they want to get out of their high school experience? And I encourage them to take risks and to do something that they've never done before. And our teachers will do that. So, you know, ask yourself the question, academically, you know that you're going to get a good education. That's just one part of it. What else do you want to do beyond the classroom, and how can you enrich something that you're already doing and continue to do that? So both Kevin and I encourage you to think beyond the scope of your academic realm, because that's only going to give you so much more beyond your high school career.
那刚才两位老师就讲到，其实他们都是很鼓励学生，就是除了这个学术以外，去做多方面的一些探索。像 Kevin 老师刚才大家看到的音乐啊、表演艺术这一些的项目，有超过一半，其实 Kevin 老师之前在高中的阶段也有尝试过。然后就是说9年级，尤其是进去的时候，其实是一个探索的阶段。那你可以尝试很多不同的东西。那如果很喜欢的话，你可以继续在这个未来的4年去继续追求，去多深入的去探索。 然后如果不喜欢的，然后你也就是知道自己的兴趣爱好在哪一些方面，所以就是不要害怕，这个也是跟刚才一开始大家就是看到的 Milton 的这个理念是希望大家勇敢去做一些不同的东西，去冒险。
Okay, and these are just pictures that I'm just gonna show you a little of, just some of the, so this was one of our plays and productions, dance concert, and that's one of the hottest things going. Students, they do upwards of, I don't know, 12 to 14 particular dances, some hip hop, all the way to, we had a Ukrainian dance past couple of years, so they do a lot of that. Sandy, I'll let you translate.
那刚才就是看到的这些照片呢，就是说学校的这个戏剧的表演，还有就是说不同的一个舞蹈。
This is our orchestra, and this is the director of music. His name is Adrian Antoine, and so he really works with a pretty large orchestra, and then he also has the chamber orchestra, which is a much smaller group. That group you do have to audition for. They pair up with the chamber singers. And in previous years, we would travel, every other year. The chamber orchestra and singers would go overseas to Europe and other parts. And then the next year would be time for the jazz band, and they would go to South Africa. So we do a trip a year in terms of the musical part of that. So the elite jazz players and performers get to travel over to South Africa, where the smaller chamber group would perform, overseas, and then obviously here on campus.
那这个是学校的乐团，那个就是这位是学校的这个音乐总监，那他也会就是有机会跟就是比较大的这个乐团去合作，然后也有就是比较小的这个 chamber 的这个乐团，然后呢这一些的乐团呢都有机会去不同的地方，比如说去南非啊，去其他不同的地方去做一些表演。
So we talk about the music, the arts, film, and all of that, but we also have our fair share of sports, which Kevin was very much a part of. And so, we have athletics, we have different sports from fall, winter, spring. Some students have no athletic ability whatsoever, and then all of a sudden develop a passion for athletics. Some students bring their athletic ability to our campus and continue to develop that. We have different levels, from thirds team to freshman teams to all the way to some of the top, which would be the equivalent of varsity, which is the ISL. And over the years, we have won championships in basketball and in football and hockey, ice hockey. Girls, we have a lot of things as well for our girls. So it's not just about the boys. We have a nice balance of that, 15 girls teams and 15 boys teams. We have different courts. So if you're playing tennis in the spring and it rains, guess what? We have inside the gymnasium, which is in the wintertime, it's our rink. But the rink, the ice, we clear away the ice and we expose our indoor tennis courts. So we do have 4 indoors. So there's lots of opportunities for you to explore. If none of this appeals to you, you will take PE, which is physical education. But then there's also things you can do that's not a part of the traditional sports, Pilates and yoga and training and conditioning. So the strength training and conditioning, if I can get it out. So, and then play ultimate frisbee. So you could do a lot of different things. Kevin, you want to add?
Oh yeah, I did a sport every single season. So I did football. I also swam, and in the spring I played lacrosse. And on top of that, a lot of the facilities are, they're not just open to the athletes, right? If you want to use the tennis courts or the soccer field, to play with your friends, like, play a pickup game of soccer, frisbee, you definitely can do that, provided, it's not during an actual, like, training session with the team, right? Yeah, I mean, even the squash courts, I remember I would sometimes just casually try it out with my friends on the weekend. Again, the key message being try things you've never tried before. I never played any sport before Milton. I was terrible at football. Swimming, I was okay. Lacrosse was probably the one that I was okay at the most. But the point is not to just, the point is not, you don't have to be the best at it, right? The point is, you're trying to enrich your experience, again, beyond just the academic part, right? You also have the arts and you have the athletics. So I think that core message remains consistent throughout.
Okay. All right. Before you translate, I just want to share something. That's Kevin when he was at the Milton swim team.
Wow.
Yeah, that was from my senior year or freshman year. I don't know.
I like this quote.
Yeah, that's what happened.
Kevin, these are supposed to be your friends.
Yeah, thanks, Zion. That's lovely. Thank you for sharing.
No problem.
那就是刚才讲到的是体育的部分。那学校有很多就是不同的体育的运动，然后有15个就是男生的队，然后15个女生的队，然后也有不同的程度。那有一些孩子是可能本身就是一些比较强的运动员，然后可能也把这个带到学校。那也有一些是之前没有学过任何的运动，然后很想尝试的。像 Kevin 老师刚才也讲，他之前在进入 Milton 之前，他是没有尝试任何的运动，但是去了以后就去尝试了很多，包括游泳啊，然后橄榄球啊，就是曲棍球啊，这一些都有试过。然后呢，学校的这个设施还是有比较丰富的，也不是只给这个运动队或运动员去尝试。周末的时候，例如像什么壁球啊这一些的壁球场啊，这些都是学生如果希望去去玩的话也可以。然后如果是不希望传统的这运动啊，像瑜伽等等这一些体能锻炼这一些的，也算是一种体育课，学生也是可以去尝试。
Awesome. And so these are just some of the pictures, some of the photos that we were taking, for our students running. This is our, I believe, cross country team, obviously our baseball team. These are just some of our students at different rallies and, that were cheering people on the sidelines. So you don't have to be one of the athletes. You can also be a spectator as well. And that this is our big rally that we have as we are going into, we have a Milton Nobles Day, and they do a big pep rally, and it's a K-12 pep rally. So that's why you see some of the younger kids there, where they get involved as well.
那这些是一些运动的照片，然后有不同的活动，像这个是就是不同年级的学生，像学校的这个K 到12年级的都有，所以大家看到一些年幼一点的面孔。
Okay. So I think as we were talking about the athletics and academics and the arts and things that you do, I mentioned the early on in one of my support slides, talking about the house system in the dorms. And so we have 8 dorms on campus, 4 for girls and 4 for boys. The whole point is to stay in the same dorm all 4 years. So when Kevin spoke about living in Nora's house, which is one of our boys' dorms in the newer dorms, he was there for his entire years at Milton, from freshman all the way through his senior year. And it's family style living, so you have roughly anywhere from there could be from 35 students to 48 students in a dorm, and all 4 grades coexist. And we don't have a freshman dorm, we don't have a sophomore dorm, we have all 4 grades coexist. They just live on different floors. 80% of our faculty live on campus, and obviously some of those dorms And you also have, like I mentioned early on, the dorm parents and other faculty that are a part of that to support the students that are currently occupying those spaces. This is an aerial view of our campus. And this gives you a good sense of what we look like as a, from up above. But then we have dorms that are what we call East Campus. So we have 2 dorms on East Campus. We have main part of campus is, we have some of our other dorms, and then we have 2 other dorms, which is called West Campus. And West Campus is just a hop, skip, and a jump. But, that would incorporate the eight houses that we have on campus.
那这个是关于学校的宿舍。那 Milton 呢有8个宿舍，那每个宿舍大概有35到48个学生。那学生在4年高中4年的时候呢，都是住在同一个宿舍，所以就不像有一些学校可能会把9年级的分一个学生宿舍，10年级分一个宿舍这样子。所以就是在每个宿舍里面都有不同年级的学生。那这个是不同年龄的学生也可以。跟不同年级的去交流，然后大家的融合也是非常好的。
And I think it's also important to point out just, again, the aerial view of our campus, where the football field is, the track, some of the other buildings. And that just shows you the scope of our campus and the fields, the multiple fields that we have for athletics and so forth. You can see down here in the shaded area, the diamond, but that's just not just the only diamond that we have on campus as well. So it's just important to really get a good view. I know some of our little identifying areas are hiding the whole aerial, but this hopefully gives a good sense of our campus and beyond. I mean, Milton is a suburban area, but it's nestled. It's a nice little small city, small town city, if you will. But then just beyond that is Boston, so you don't feel extremely isolated, and you can, as Kevin mentioned a while ago, that you can jump right out and go right into Boston very, very quickly.
那大家看到的这个是从高空看进去的一个学校的环境。那学校里面有不同的运动设施，大家可以看到。然后学校就是距离波士顿也不是很远，所以就是好像在自己一个小镇里面，但是去波士顿也很方便。所以大家看到不同的运动设施都会散布在学校的不同角落。
So in this slide, it talks about, living at Milton and why, the important part about living at Milton. And you guys can sort of read that for yourself. But Kevin, are there any other anecdotal areas that you can think of? Like you talked about family style is best, the faculty and their families complete with children and pets and so forth. But are there, from your experience here, are there examples that you want to share with the audience?
Yeah, I mean, dorm life was easily my favorite part about Milton by far, right? Because I mean, it's just what can I say about it? It's amazing. I mean, you really form, for me, it really formed a brotherhood with the guys I lived with. In Norris, I think there were 41 boys, or 42, right, including myself, 42 boys in total. And by design, you stay in the same dorm for 4 years. That really lets you get to know the guys and also the dorm faculty really well, right? I remember when I first came to Milton, I found out that it only hit me then that you stayed in the same dorm for 4 years. First, I really wanted to go into Forbes because I stayed at Forbes for overnight visit once, right? So I was actually very disappointed that I got into Norris House. And then, it was only until senior year that I realized how beneficial it was that I stayed in the same dorm for 4 years, right? Because you really feel attachment with the place, right? And I still talk to, the guys in the dorm, from my year, and also some of the dorm faculty, you really form some good lifelong connections. So I think that's also something very unique to Milton. The fact that you do stay in the same dorm with 4 years, you're living with other years as well, right? So you have like the little brothers and the older brothers, and then you know, the troublemakers in between. So it's it really is a benefit to be in the same dorm for 4 years. Absolutely.
Yeah.
那这个关于学校的宿舍呢，也是这个宿舍生活也是 Kevin 老师最喜欢的一个方面。像刚才讲到，学校的不同年级的学生呢，都是住在同一个宿舍，然后你待4年，所以大家的这个关系还是非常的密切的，因为就是每天一起住，然后跟其他的同学啊，就建立了很多的感情。然后还有就是学校里面的老师，他们的小孩啊，还有他们的宠物啊，也是住在宿舍里面，所以就是说，是一个很温馨的一个大家庭。学校的这个比例，就是说宿舍的比例，对于就是老师跟学生是1:4，所以就是如果学生需要任何的协助啊，这一些其实都可以随时去找到老师，所以这部分也是就是 Milton 非常好的一个地方。
And I think, you know, this is information that I encourage you to just to take a closer look on our website, just about our student activities and different things. And we've touched upon our student activities in the different slides as Kevin and I were chatting, you know, doing our presentation. But this just gives you a sense of, you know, over at least, you know, 20 to 40 events. There are over, you know, we have over 100 clubs and organizations. Right now, about 75 of them are active. And so that's still a lot. And they meet and they have different focuses. You know, some of them may all hinge on what they're doing in class. So if you're taking a computer programming class, we have a computer programming club. If you're doing stuff in music, then you can also continue to do things outside in music. And then the performances, as I mentioned, are pretty rich. And then Boston is a resource. So, you know, there are times when we would get tickets to go to the Boston Symphony Orchestra or just different plays and productions as a dorm. Sometimes a dorm would do a bowling night or would go to a different play or production. So we really do utilize Boston. So student activities, it can go beyond the scope of this campus. But now more so, we do a lot on campus, and have created, you know, such a you know, there's always, you probably heard that in the video, there's always something to do.
那学校的活动也是非常的丰富的。那就是每个月呢，起码有20到40个活动，然后呢，学校也有就是超过100个就是学会，然后就是在刚才讲到，就是学校因为距离波士顿比较近，所以也有很多的机会，例如说去波士顿的这个乐团啊，去看一些表演啊等等，然后也有很多的在学校校园里面的活动，所以就是总有一些适合大家学生参加的一些活动如果说你对音乐有兴趣的，可以参加他们的音乐学会啊，然后如果对于电脑程序有兴趣的，也可以参加相关的一些学会。
Kevin, did I miss anything, or do you want to add anything?
Oh, that was pretty good. I mean, you know, the student activities, I think they do a really good job, you know, providing, you know, especially from a board perspective, right, where we may be a little bit more limited in leaving campus. There's always something to do on the weekend. So definitely thankful for that.
And I think it's also important to note that we have a, you know, student, we have somebody who is in charge of what we call fun on campus, and she's the director of student activities. But then there's also the student activities board, which are comprised of students. And so students do have a voice in some of the things that happen on our campus, and you know, particularly where they may know different programs and so forth. We have different budgets where we can bring, you know, talented acts on campus and well-known people on campus, but then we have a lot of things happening insular where a lot of talented people exist right on this campus. So so you're never ever going to run out of things to do. I this is to the parents. If your children call home and say we're bored, you can go look on the website and look which is the calendar, the school calendar, and you'll see all the activities listed. So when your children say, "Mom, Dad, I'm bored," that's not always the case. So that allows you to at least see what your children can participate and be a part of.
Yeah, I don't think you'll ever be bored at Milton. To be
I
honest.
agree.
I mean, even also in the dorms, right? You don't
always
just
something.
have student activities. A lot of the dorm faculties organize trips to like movies or bowling or shopping, whatever, right? There's always some kind of activity happening on the weekend in the dorms as well. And you can also make your own fun, right? Boredom is only it's a mental thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
那刚才两位老师就讲到，其实真的是有很多的活动，你在 Milton 里面是不会觉得沉闷的。如果说有个就是学生打给妈妈，就爸爸说啊很闷啊，其实大家去到学校的这个calendar 上面就能够看到有很多不同丰富的活动，所以大家不会觉得没有事情会干。学校有就是这个小组可以去专组织这些活动的，里面也有学生的成员，所以就是说学生也可以去给予一些意见，去组织什么的一些活动，所以这个宿舍生活还是非常的丰富多彩的。
Okay, and then again, these are some of the outdoor programs that we have. Some things are being adjusted with our new normal right now, but community engagement is something that we will continue to do. Outdoor programs, things like that, so students can get involved in a number of different areas. Whether you are doing something on the Maine coast or the mountain school, so that part is available. One of the things just to know that is something that we will continue to do. City school is actually, that's being phased out. Unfortunately, I forgot to take that off, but that is being phased out. It has nothing to do with Milton, it just has to do with the connection with the school in which we're working with. So that is going to be phased out, but all the other programs. And keep in mind that something phased out, something else gets added in. So there will still be those connections with the other areas. So you don't have to just stay on campus. And these are typically community engagement you're going to do all 4 years, whether it is you're actively participating in it and something that you're doing, that's something that you want to do, or it's a part of activities that we have an all school campus-wide community engagement day. So, there's plenty of opportunity for you to be able to give back to our local community, whether you're working, teaching, tutoring, helping out in a local food kitchen, things of that nature. So there's always ways in which you can give back. And many of you who I've interviewed or your peers in the past have all talked about some of the rich relationships that they've gained from community service experience, and that does not falter. It does not. It continues, and it is quite robust at Milton as well.
那这部分就讲到学校还是很注重这个团队的这个投入跟这个社团的这个参与的，就是学校会有很多的这一些例如说义工服务的机会啊，然后就是有一些户外活动的这一些项目，那就是大家也是在这个活动里面建立了很多的一些密切的关系。
Okay, and then college counseling, your whole reason. Okay, what happens? What are the outcomes? And, we had 168 graduates this past year, and they went all over. And we really, truly they worked very, very closely. They matriculated in about 82 different colleges and universities. Some of them went overseas for programs, and then obviously some stayed in the US. So it's, they talk about the standardized testing and so forth, but I think what's most important is the fact that you have 5 full-time counselors who work with a class of between 168 to 180 students to help them in every facet. And the advisors also play a critical role in this, as do the parents. So know that your, parents, your voice is heard in this process. But we want the student to take that initiative and really push forth. So yes, they go to the top Ivy League schools, and that's a given, but then they also go, to some very strong liberal arts colleges. We try to find the right school for that student. Kevin, do you want to chime in?
College counseling was super helpful when I was a senior. Well, really, I think the process begins. I don't know what it is now. I mean, it still begins junior year, right?
It does. It's
Okay.
actually one thing. It's incorporated in. So Parents Weekend is in typically in October, and now as opposed to going to January, which is what your year was, they do it on that Sunday after Parents Weekend, so that all the families who are here from overseas and so forth are a part of that, so they don't have to come back and try to fly into Boston. So
Oh, that makes
that's
sense.
a little bit different from your years.
Yeah. I worked with Mr. Skinner. So
Who is it?
Mr. Skinner.
Of course.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, he was one of the college counselors, and I think I was able to kind of choose who I worked with, right? Mr. Skinner was also very much like attached to Norris, like he was very involved in Norris House, so I did have the added benefit of knowing him personally, right? He was super helpful, very meticulous, and helping me organize meetings with him and reviewing essays and discussing what are some strategies that we can do, whether it was essay writing or picking schools. They're very hands-on with college counseling, and they definitely helped me a lot with going to. I ended up going to Bowdoin, and that was it's thanks to college counseling at Milton.
关于这个大学升学这一部分呢，那过去这一年呢，就是 Milton 有168个毕业生，那学校里面呢，就是有5个全职的这个大学升学顾问，每年就是跟160多到180多个学生去合作，去帮助他们去申请。那这个100多个学生里面呢，去年就去了82个学校，82个大学。那当然有部分是可能是海外的，但是也有很多是在就美国国内的。然后也有一些学生，很多的学生是去了一些比较名牌的大学，然后例如说常春藤，也有一些是去了文理学院等等。那就是刚才 Kevin 老师也讲到这个就是大学的顾问的支持是非常的有帮助的。学生是从11年级开始跟老师去合作，然后学校的老师会帮助了学生在选校的这个建议方面，这个文书的策略啊，就是写作的这些技巧啊，这一些然后除了这个升学顾问以外，就是就是你的顾问老师还有家长都会在这个过程里面参与，所以家长的声音也会就是大家也会采纳，然后当然就是学校还是希望学生做一个主动，因为毕竟这个申请是学生的一个比较重大的一个部分。
And I think the other part, and I want to save time for people who want to throw questions in the chat and so forth, but applying to Milton, students can apply for grades 9, 10, and 11, as it says here on the slide. And it is okay if you want to come in as a repeat grade 9 or a repeat grade 10. It's not something that we look down on. Actually, sometimes it really depends upon, where you are overall. And I know in China, particularly 9th grade is the end of your middle school. So coming into Milton for grade 9 is really not technically repeating grade 9. So that's a little bit different. But what's also important is in one of the questions that was posed to me in the email sent was just about the the application itself, but also just the testing that's required. And we know what's happening from SSAT. Apparently they are saying that students will be able to take them at home, but what we're not sure about is the TOEFL. And so I think I don't have a clear answer as of yet, because what I think we're going to do is try to figure out If the TOEFL is not being offered and or administered in the same manner that the SSAT is trying to do, then we're trying to look at what else we can use, whether it's Duolingo or, you know, again, if you are studying at an international school, if English is really very much a first language, you're feeling that way, and then also through the interview, that's how we make the determination as to whether or not a TOEFL is required. For students where English is not your first language, and you may be coming from bilingual schools and or traditional local school, then we are going to have to figure out what's going to be the best method to be able to evaluate you overall. Because what's important to us is not just what you've done in the SSAT and your TOEFL, but also your academic performance, overall program, you know, your writing, all aspects in that regard. And the interview is something that we are going to require. So what I'm used to doing, and I'm sad that I'm not going to be able to come for some students who can't make the journey to Boston, I would do interviews while I was in China. So now what's going to happen is we are working right now currently remotely. I happen to be in my office today, but we're working remotely from home, but we're strategizing as to, you know, how you'll be able to see our campus virtually, interviews and how that's going to play. All of those will be virtual, whether it's going to be done through Zoom or done through Skype. You know, we'll do a number of different areas. So keep that in mind. So when we are ready to launch by August, there will be good information on our website about how students can see our campus virtually, because we doubt that we will be open in September. So we want to make sure that you can see, because I took the time to go through the slides, show you what Milton is. Where we are right now, a little bit different. But my hope is by the time you're ready to come to school in 2021, that we will be back to what we hope is where we have been before. So hopefully that you know that the new Milton that I'm talking about right now, with the remote learning and so forth, is not something that we are hoping will continue on for forever. So I'll stop there, Sandy, let you translate, and then we'll dive into some of the other questions.
Sure. 那这个部分是关于这个申请的程序的，然后就是 Milton 会接受9到11年级的学生申请，那学生去重读1年，这个也是完全没有问题，也不会让学生就是在处于一个劣势上面。然后在于这个申请的标化考试方面 ，SSAT， 那 SSAT 呢，今年会推出一个在家考试的这个版本，所以呢，这个应该大家在考试的这个范围里面应该是没有什么问题的。在托福方面呢，学校也是在观看的状态。那如果最终没有一个好的一个方案的话呢，学校会考虑接受其他的这个英语就是测试，例如说 Duolingo， 那这个托福或者是 Duolingo 这一些呢，其实就是在学生如果他不是在国际学校读书，他不是英语为母语的学生才需要去考的。那当然就是考试也不是唯一的这个考虑的范围，那学校也会看学生的这个成绩，还有就是说你的成绩单啊，还有文书啊等等的一些其他的部分。那面试也是学校非常重要的。然后往年的话，对于一些就不能去访校的学生呢，就是Lori 老师会每年也去中国去做一些面试，但今年可能就不一定有这个机会。那学校也是在讨论怎么可以提供一个比较好的一个线上的校园探访跟面试，可能是 Zoom 或者是 Skype 的这个面试，希望给予大家更好的一个体验。那学校还是希望就是说今年这个疫情原因，可能这个线上学习也是短暂的，希望大家在2021年大家申请入学的时候可以有一个完整，就是像过往的一个 Milton 的完整体验。
And I think it's also important. So the application deadline is still going to remain the same, January 15th. The decision, our decision to the families will still remain the same, which is March 10. And the application, we accept the SAO and Gateway. And the gateway application will go live again as we get ready for the fall of 2021. We'll go live in August, sometime in August. But so for those of you who would like to receive information from us, I will put that information in the chat, but I encourage you to visit www.milton.edu. And you can visit that. That would give you information about our school, but then there is a tab that says the admission tab, and then you can go in there, and if you would like to become an inquiry, you can fill out the online or request for information online, and that way that will start the ball rolling, and then you will receive information about how you can apply, more direct information about virtual tours, and more information in terms of what's happening with testing and everything else. So all of that will pop in. So it's important that you definitely, please, I encourage you, because if without that and requesting information from us, we do it remotely. I mean, we do it electronically. Then the only thing you're going to see is just what you're going to see in the website without getting further correspondence from us. So I encourage you to please do that and request information so that you can receive further correspondence. And also, I may do a reception, a virtual reception, and we're still talking about that. So that's something to keep in mind. And if I do a virtual reception, then I would like to be able to invite you again with some updates and things that we're going to do.
好的，那刚才老师呢就讲到，就是这个申请的截止日期呢没有改变，还是1月15号。这个出结果的日子也是没有改变，3月10号。然后呢，学校会接受这个 SAO 跟 Gateway 两个系统，就是这个通用申请跟独立申请，学校都会接受。然后呢，就是 Lori 老师鼓励大家去学校的这个网站，那刚才希望老师也是在群里面，把这个学校的网站打出来，那学校就是大家可以去这个 admission 的这个网页去填这个资料表，那之后学校有任何的一些消息，关于学校的这个申请啊，关于不同的东西啊，都会接收到最新的消息。那 Lori 老师也是在计划做一个线上的见面会，因为往年他可以就是过来这边跟我们见面，那今年可能就会要改成线上的形式。但是一切还是在计划当中，那这一些都是会之后再跟大家公布。
Also, I see that in the chat that there was a couple of questions about, I think I answered the first one, where for a China applicant who's been studying at an international school for 5 years, can the TOEFL be waived? And that I answered that. It's certainly something that we would do. And also, this came from Martin, also just note that during the interview, that's when we also, really determine the students, their language ability. But many times, if they've been in an international school, we can waive the TOEFL. So, and that's not something that we would require. And then the same person asked also I want to know, for a green card holder, will applying as a day program enjoy better acceptance possibility than boarding students? And I would say no. I would say that, really truly, when our students are applying, it's not, if you're a green card holder applying for day student, that's a lot better than if you're an international student applying for boarding, because our acceptance rate last year was 14%. And it was, it's very, very, very competitive. We had over 1,700 applications with about 14% of those that were offered admission. And it was not, well, this student looks more attractive because they're on a green card. No, it's really looking at overall. And it doesn't mean that even we had to make some difficult decisions, some of our best students. So we weren't able to accept. So we had over the years, we're seeing our acceptance rate drop a bit. So what we tell you to do is to apply in the manner that you will apply and do everything that you possibly can to tell us your story, being open in the interview, through your recommendations, through your own personal narrative, when you're looking at when you're writing your essay, and then obviously your parents are going to chime right in and are very excited to share their child's experience and so forth. So the one does not give an advantage over another. So it's important to note that. So if you're coming to China, unless you're moving to the United States for work and for other employment because of job or what have you, then, and you're moving to Boston and the day option would make sense, yes, that makes sense. But if you're doing it just to further or better your chances, that's not always a guaranteed acceptance.
那刚才Lori 老师就是回答一个问题，就是说如果在拿绿卡，美国绿卡作为就是走读生的申请，这个是不是会更有优势对于申请技术？那答案是不会的，因为呢学校不是看你拿的是绿卡还是什么样，就是去年那 Milton 呢收到了1700个申请，那这个录取率是14%，所以竞争还是非常的激烈了。然后学校看的呢不是你拿的是什么身份或者是申请什么的一个就是走读生还是宿舍住宿他们是看的是你的这个个人的这个故事，还有就是你的面试啊，你的文书啊，展现的自己。那就是如果除非家庭是有这个工作的安排，会希望就是说搬去这个波士顿有这个实际的需要的话呢，这个才是会可行的方案。但是如果只是为了申请的话呢，这个是不建议的，也没有任何的优势。
So I also know that there were other questions that people had, and I don't know if people are still utilizing the chat. I see there. Oh, okay. Martin said thank you. You're very welcome. So if there are other questions, please feel free to jump into the chat. But what also I wanted to talk a little bit about is what's happening now and where we are now. You know, we are all experiencing COVID-19 ways in which we couldn't have ever imagined. As I told you, I graduated, our seniors graduated this year under the auspice of coronavirus, and we were not able to have anything formal in terms of their graduation, so everything was virtual. But how creative we were able to get was, so we had a virtual prom where we brought in a DJ, and they were able to, you know, the kids were able to have, you know, have fun at their home. It wasn't the same as being around each other. We did Zoom meetings all the time with our advisees in classes. We have had syncretic and asyncretic teaching methods where we were also very mindful of the fact that we had students that were overseas, that were in China, that were 12 hours away in terms of time. So we had to, you know, try to balance that as well. We had some of our students who were in the US where they had to take 8 p.m. classes so that we could be mindful of the fact that, you know, you are here in China, you know, taking an 8 a.m. class and you're doing 8 p.m. classes all the time. So we were mindful of that. Going into the fall, you know, we've purchased a number of different equipment so that if we had to close down, you know, that we could continue our teaching. I don't have an answer in terms of what's going to happen for the fall. How are we going to open? All of that is being governed by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, our government, as well as, you know, what's happening in our region. So I don't have anything now. I know our head of school, and we have a task force who is working nonstop to determine what's going to be the next phase of that. But I can tell you that we were creative with everything, so that prize assembly, Kevin, prize assembly was virtual this year. Graduation virtual, prom virtual. We couldn't do our boat dance, which is for our juniors. We couldn't do all those traditional things. They did a quarantine version of our play, so we had different things. So we tried to, you know, keep things going and keep the energy going. But I can tell you, for students who were in the dorms, and Kevin can attest to this, they were missing their buds, they were missing their friends, they were missing the other dorm mates. So when they would have dorm meetings, Zoom meetings, you know, one of the parents who is from China, she's like, her daughter was always crying at the end of it because she was missing her peers. And so, you know, we tried very hard to have this be a bearable time for our students and for our staff and so forth. But it was, it was something that it was hard, but we worked through. So Sandy, I'm going to stop there, let you translate, and then I'll go into the next phase of that.
Okay, thank you. 那刚才呢，Lori 老师就是讲到这个现在疫情期间的这个学校的安排。那因为就是今年的这个疫情呢，就是毕业礼啊，都是转成了这个线上的，然后但是学校也是会非常有创意的去做这一些的毕业礼，然后就变成了是就是 Zoom 的一个方法，然后也有很多的这一些就是跟顾问老师的这些见面啊，都是变成了线上。那学校也是很了解到就是有时差的这个问题，然后就是对于这个时间表啊等等都有不同的一些安排。那对于今年就是秋季的这个开学的计划呢，学校还是没有很确实能够有的一个答案，因为还是要看这个麻省就是政府的这个规定跟这个安排要怎么开放。但是学校已经做好了不同的准备，就是如果学校还是要关闭的话，也有就是充足的一些资源做一些不同的线上学习，然后学校也是很了解到大家就是在疫情期间，也是很就想念其他的同学啊、其他的朋友啊这一些，所以学校也是非常的在努力，就是在这个疫情期间能够保持大家紧密的这个关系。
In addition to that, I think it's also worth noting, I know that a lot of, which is probably on your mind, and you may not be able to, feel comfortable asking, is what's happening with, things going on here in the U.S., particularly with some of the discrimination that's happening, against our Asian people of Asian descent and so forth, as it relates to the coronavirus and so forth. And I can tell you that Milton has been a very supportive environment and atmosphere, even from afar. And some of the things obviously we can't control because that's happening outside of our purview and outside of with people, and of course with the person who is leading in the White House is not helping matters. But what we're trying to do is balance things so that we have Vivian Wulong, who is in charge of our Asian Society, and she and many of our Asian faculty here at Milton, and then our faculty of color are working very closely so our students don't feel like they're being discriminated against or that they're going to be targeted because of, and we're very clear about that here. And so even from afar, we were able to convey that message, and then we did in the wake of the George Floyd murder and so forth, and with the police and all, we did a virtual vigil with over 1,000 participants that were a part of it, both, you can see them, or that were some non-participants. So we're very much aware of race situation in this country and what's happening. And so we very much try to talk very openly with our students. We have affinity spaces and groups where you can have those conversations and those uncomfortable conversations, but I don't want you to feel like you're going to come to our campus and automatically feel like you're not a part of this campus, because we work very, very hard to make sure that, that students feel supported. Now, can we tell you that people aren't going to say silly things? No, I can't tell you that at all, but it's all in how we react to it. So we want to make sure that if someone says something to a student, if it's another student, that we really have students understand, ways in which, it's not okay to say certain things. And that's where the different support groups and so forth with affinity spaces really come into play. So, it's been tough across the board since January, and then, actually, since January and before that, when coronavirus hit China, before that, but then now coming into this country and having it completely mobilize us, it's been hard. But what I don't want you to feel is that you're coming to these schools and that we're not going to support students of all race and ethnicities and backgrounds, because we are. And so we don't tolerate any type of negative or harmful words to each other, towards other students faculty, staff, and others. So I wanted to be very, very clear on that. You know, we are a school of higher learning, and we are constantly learning, and we're constantly growing, and we're constantly trying to figure out how we can help our students be better citizens and not be a part of what's taking place in a larger venue. So that's where we are on the racial side of it, but it's not an easy conversation always to have, but we continue to push ourselves to have those uncomfortable conversations.
那刚才 Lori 老师讲到的就是这个大家可能比较关注的这个种族歧视的问题。那其实呢，就是在 Milton 里面呢，他们是非常包容的一个社区。那学校也是对于不同的人种例如他们有这个亚洲的学会，然后去支持亚洲的学生。然后就是之前的这个在美国的这个黑人的这个就是事件呢，他们也有做一个就是线上的一个仪式，所以学校呢是非常的就是反对这个歧视的。然后虽然学校不能保证说没有人会就是说一些就是歧视性的说话，但是如果有这样事情发生的话，学校会有一个比较坚决的态度，会让学生知道就是这样的说法是不对的。学校就是会非常在这方面也是非常的在支持不同的学生，然后会不允许任何的歧视，或者是对于任何就是有色人种的这一些的歧视。
Kevin, is there anything else that you want to add? I know you've been receiving some of the alumni things, but I don't know if there's anything else that you want to add in that from that perspective, or anything that I may have missed and so forth. Kevin? Oops, I think he's frozen.
Yeah, he's frozen.
He is really frozen. I was like, Kevin. Anyway, so are there other questions? I'm looking in the chat to see how many ninth graders, 50-50 split, grade 9 day and boarding students. So grade 9 is our largest enrollment. And so obviously for grade 9, we are looking at probably about about 50 students, 50 to 60 students coming into the ninth grade as boarding, and probably about another 40 or so coming into the ninth grade as day students. So it really varies. And then we also have a group of students coming over from the middle school. In the middle school, we have roughly about maybe 40 students that will come in the middle school. So grade 9 is our largest enrollment. Grade 11 is our least, is our smallest enrollment for obvious reasons. And so for students who are looking to apply to Milton for grade 11, you really have to come in at a pretty strong rate and be a strong student overall, because you really truly need to know you're walking through the door. Come October, you're already starting the process with the college search, and then you've got 2 years to hit the ground running before you graduate. So it becomes very, very quick. So some of our students will look to repeat grade 10 and then have three consecutive years if they're of age. Some students have aged out, so they can't go into 10, so they have to go to 11. So we will look overall. But I would encourage you, if you are thinking about staying in China for one more year, going into grade 10 and then applying to our schools for repeat grade 10, that's what I would do if you don't want to do grade 9, because some, I think it all varies, but grade, if you can have 3 to 4 years of a consecutive experience, then that would be very, very helpful. He's back.
Yeah, sorry, I think I just
oh, you were frozen, my friend. You were frozen.
Yeah.
Oh, I was asking just about race relations and so forth, but I'll come back to you on that. Cindy, you can go ahead and translate the other question.
刚才就是有家长问到，就是说这个9年级的这个入学的数字，那9年级是招生相对比较多的，11年级就是招的最少的，然后在9年级的话，大概是招50到60个寄宿学生，40个走读学生，然后也有大概40个学生是从Milton 的这个就是初中上去他们的高中的，那就是11 11年级的话呢，因为其实这个要求会很高，因为一进到学校就是那个10月份，其实就要开始这个大学的申请、大学的这个考虑，所以呢，就是有些学生呢也会就是考虑是重读这个十年级，因为就是学校还是会觉得就是大概有3到4年这个完整一点的这个高中的生活，会对于适应和对于就是这个学习的情况还是会有比较大的帮助。
Let's see. I was just looking to see if there's any other questions. So Kevin, I was talking a lot about the race relations and so forth, obviously what's been happening with George Floyd and, particularly some of the stereotypes that's happening against our Asian, whether it's Asian American, with the coronavirus and so forth, and how we've been able to handle it and deal with it on the ground here, while we cannot obviously do anything beyond the walls of Milton. We work very hard to maintain that balance and also have a place where students can talk openly. My question to you was there anything else in your time here, and I know that was long before all of this has been going on, but was there anything in your time here that that you experienced or that you were able to talk openly and feel comfortable and confidently in talking with in a larger group or a smaller group?
Yeah, no, I caught a bit about what you said.
You did, okay.
Two things that I want to add. So when I was at Milton, I was a part of Asian Society, where my senior year I ended up being co-head. I was very involved, and that was also really nice affinity space for myself and some of my other peers, Asian and non-Asian, to talk about some of the issues that Asians and Asian Americans may face. And it's kind of a nice space to discuss our own personal experiences and any problems that we might have come across during our time at Milton. Although beyond the dorm, I think some of my friends from Asian Society were also one of my closest friends who I've been talking to them every week. I mean, having especially during this time. So that has been a really nice space, right? Because as an Asian American, I get it. It's nice to have people who look like you, but also have very similar experiences that you can bond over, right? The other thing I want to add is that you mentioned that it's really important for Milton to understand how to be reactive in situations, right? How do we combat certain instances that might happen on campus or off campus to our students, right? The other thing I want to add is that it's also, Milton's reactive, but also proactive, right? We try to help our students understand what the dynamics are at the time, during the time, right? And particularly for students of color, we have the transitions program that I did when I was at Milton, and that was very helpful, right? Because I think my time at transitions really, helped me understand more of my place at Milton, my place, how that will look like on campus, and also in relation to each other, right? What are some things I have to be aware about and be open-minded and be considerate when interacting with such a diverse class, right?
Yeah.
So, I do want to add that point of being reactive, but also proactive.
Proactive,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, thank you for adding that. And I mean, and that's, it's important that, it's not like, oh my God, we've got to deal with this right now. And then there are also just the different allyships that, as Kevin mentioned, that we have. So even having some of the, your white allies and so forth, because although we're 44% students of color, we still have, white students here, we have white faculty here, and how supportive can they be? And then there are ways in which students themselves are able to support one another and in a larger realm. So there's a lot that we do. There's still a lot that we're doing, and there's still a lot that we are learning. I think no school can rest on their laurels anymore. So you've got this great campus, beautiful school, wonderful academics, but at the crux of it, when you're sitting at the table having these tough conversations, how are you the question is more rhetorical. How are you responding and reacting to situations when they arise? And then how are you preparing students for situations when they arise? So I think that's really truly what, the independent schools can do. And, there's a lot to them, and there's a lot that we have to break that old tradition a little bit and go into what's new. So that's what we are. I know, Sandy, we gave you a lot. I'm so sorry.
那刚才就是魏老师在补充，就是关于这个多元包容的这个校园，然后就是在歧视的方面。那 Kevin 老师讲到，他当时在Milton 的时候呢，他也是这个亚洲学会的一员，然后他是非常的就是参与很多的这一些活动，然后他们会组织一些不同的活动啊，跟其他的就是亚洲学生或者是在就是美国的这些亚裔的学生去讨论一些不同的挑战啊，去讨论一些不同的问题啊。那很多的这一些朋友呢，其实跟Kevin 老师现在也是跟他们很好的这个友谊，保持了这个友谊。然后学校就是在这个处理这一个多元文化方面，还是有比较主动，而且就是也是在很快的去应变的这个取态的。所以就是学校就是这个不容易的，因为就是有很多的这个不同的声音啊，不同的东西要做。但是学校也是在不同的学习，在不同阶段的学习。但是因为学校也有40多个%的人是就是有色的人种，所以学校在这方面也是做得非常的好。
Okay. I just put in the chat my email because I am mindful of time. It's day for me, but I know it's nighttime for all of you. So I am mindful of your time, of the time. I just wanted to make sure, did I answer? You guys had sent me some questions, and you guys had sent me some questions. So did I answer all of them? Did you guys have anything else that I missed?
No, I think we're good for now. So okay. Thank you very much, Lori.
Thank you so much. And as we develop the fall and continue, I mean, we're going to do a number of virtual general information sessions, and then we're going to do a number of virtual, areas, specific areas. So areas in the arts, area in athletics, area in student activities, as well as we're going to do a diversity virtual event. And what's great about that is not just me, it will be students and then people that are a part of all of that. So you'll hear from art students and athletics and so forth. So it'll be great to get that. So, and I saw that you guys put in the chat how to request information, how to learn more about us, how to apply, and then I also put my email there. So I thank you guys for setting this up. It's always a pleasure to meet with your group because you guys have such quality students. Kevin, thank you for joining in on the chat and being a part of our Zoom meeting, from a former foundation employee to Milton as a student and so forth, and everything else in between. I appreciate your willingness to share so much about your experience and why it's something that you look at very positively. So I thank you for that. And I wish everybody well, and I wish everybody to stay safe. And again, if you have any questions, my email is there. I welcome any and all emails.
Alright, 就谢谢大家今天晚上就抽时间来听我们今天线上的这个讲座。那今年的话其实 Milton 那边的话，他们也在准备，比如说往后一段时间的，无论是线上的这个访校啊，或者说还有很多新的这个信息的话，他们其实也在积极准备当中。那所以如果在暑假的这段时间的话呢，他们也会有更多的这个校史会跟我们去分享。那所以大家今天的话非常感谢，就是Lori 老师还有就是 Kevin 老师两位在美国那边去跟我们做今天这个分享然后就最后祝大家晚安，还有就是说大家也要保重。 So thank you very much. I think we'll wrap it up.
Awesome. Thank you. And if I can say one thing, you have a great team in foundations. So if you are a part of this group, you have a great team in foundations. They know a lot and they're really, really strong. So you've got a great group of consultants and directors that will be helping you and your children navigate through this process. So good luck with everything, everybody. Take care. Kevin, see you soon. All right.
Thank you.
See ya.
All right.
Bye,
Bye.
Kevin. Thank you. Bye-bye.